All right,
Nah.
next up, we're going to talk about Terrence Howard, who feels as though he has money owed to him. He was screwed out of funds from Hustle and Flow years ago. So, this is every time I think about Terrence Howard, I think about Jamie Foxx impersonating him and how hilarious that is. Uh, Anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, you can look it up on YouTube. Jamie Foxx, this is old stuff years ago. Jamie Foxx was on, I think it was the Big Boy show, the radio show.
Mm.
And he was doing an impersonation of Terrence Howard. And it's just it's hilarious. So y'all go check that out, man. But Terrence Howard feels as though he was jilted out of financial gains from Hustle and Flow. So this article from from Hip Hop DX rather says Terrence Howard reveals measly Hustle and Flow earnings, claims he was screwed by a studio. Terrence Howard has claimed that he is still owed money for starring in the Oscar-nominated movie Hustle and Flow, despite it being released almost 20 years ago. Appearing on Memphis's WREG News Channel 3, Howard discussed how he has not seen royalties from the 2005 film, for which he was nominated for Best Actor at the 78th Academy Awards and also rapped on the soundtrack. Quote, what Paramount did, instead of putting my name as Terrence Howard performing the songs, they put performed by DJ. Well, they own DJ, he said, referring to his character in the film. So now I've got to sue Paramount or send them a letter to say, hey, you guys owe me about 20 years worth of residuals and performance royalties. Howard also revealed he was paid just $12,000 for the lead role in the film as a pimp who aspires to be a rapper. His role in the Oscar winning Crash, he claimed, netted him half that. The business don't pay actors anything. That's why the strike is going on. Actors are struggling, he lamented. Hustle and Flow reportedly grossed 23.5 million against a production budget of 2.8 million. It yielded 2 Oscar nominations, with 3 6 Mafia winning Best Original Song, while Howard lost out in the Best Actor category to Philip Seymour Hoffman, who won for Capote. So Terrence Howard is big mad, thinks that he was screwed out of royalties from Hustle and Flow. Do you think Mr. Howard is correct and he is entitled to missing royalties from his appearance in that movie?
Absolutely. And the reason why I find this interesting is that I thought actors made money, you know. Um Now I've also heard that the people that got paid for Friday, if they even got paid, and I'm talking about the first Friday, I mean they didn't get anything.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that the actor game was a racket like the music game, to be honest. Uh when Hustle and Flow came out, that's when I was young, confused, looking for whatever. I don't know what the hell I was looking for. So when it came out, it resonated with me. It was to me, it was cutting edge in the sense of, it was a movie centered around black people, which was cool. But it was also talking about stuff that I liked. Ludacris was in there. I was a big Ludacris fan. It was on point. So I grew up being a fan of it. Now that I'm an adult, pimps and hoes and trying to trying to trying to make money and all this other weird stuff, the way that he was doing things, it's a little shicey, and I don't necessarily care for it like that, so I won't watch it again. But there are scenes in there that I would rewatch, I ain't gonna lie. But with all that said, yeah, man, I feel like he's deserved this money. But the bait and switch that they did to him by saying that, oh, Terrence Howard didn't perform this, DJ did. Well, then you got to sit around and ask yourself, how often do they do this? I know that they're still doing this. And so these actor studios, these record labels, they're the real pimps. And now I see why people sell out in this industry, because they're not getting paid. Fame and notoriety honestly don't put food on the table. So if everybody's watching your movie, singing your song, and all this other good stuff in between, and you already paid that check, everything from that check, or didn't even get anything, that's a wild lifestyle. So I'm not justifying why people cross over and sell themselves out. But I see why. Because if they were trying to be famous and make money to boot, you probably got to lick some boots in order to get that check. And maybe Mr. Terrence Howard here didn't do enough boot licking in order to get those residuals that he needed. So wild stuff, man. But how do you feel about Hustle and Flow and Terrence Howard getting I don't know, bamboozled out of his racks?
Yeah, by all appearances, it looks like much like artists in the music industry, actors are also just like working class people, modern day slaves. They just are more well paid modern day slaves.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I use the word slavery in the modern day sense, what I am talking about specifically is the notion of not being compensated in a manner that is commensurate with your production. So, what it looks like to me is Mr. Howard, who was the lead actor in that film, having only been paid $12,000. This is simple math, right? So, if the movie made, what was that, 23.5 million, and it was made for 2.8 million, that means that movie made money. And so, for him to have only been paid $12,000 is simple mathematics. He wasn't paid in a manner that is commensurate with his production because his contribution to that film played a significant role in the success of the film. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to speculate as to whether you replace Terrence Howard with another actor and it gets the same result. I'm not here to play those what if games. The
Mm-hmm.
fact of the matter is, he was in the movie, he was nominated for one of those statues, one of those trophies. It made a lot of money juxtaposed to how much it cost for the movie to be made, and he was paid a mere fraction of that profit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he was paid in a manner that is in no way commensurate with his production. Um, so apparently, actors are getting this the shaft in the same way that artists in the music industry get the shaft, in the same way that working class people get the shaft. Um, if you work a regular job, 9 to 5, if you do this kind of stuff, you're earning your salaries 50, 60, $70,000 a year. Chances are you are in the same boat as an individual like Terrence Howard, albeit less paid than him, because you are not being compensated in a manner that is commensurate with your production, your productivity, and your contribution. And that, ladies and gentlemen, as sad as it is for me to say, is capitalism. The name of the game when it comes to being able to be successful in a capitalistic infrastructure is to put yourself in a position to be an owner. So these actors can holler all day long about how underpaid they are and how much they're struggling, but they will continue to be modern day slaves until they own their own movie studios. Now, that will never happen because it's rigged so that individuals can't just own their own movie studios, right? It's no different than, you know, a rich person, some billionaire who wants to try and buy an NFL team. The game is rigged against people just showing up and deciding that they want to buy an NFL team. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to be an all inclusive club for all of eternity because that's how this thing is set up. So you basically have to live with the fact that you will be a modern day slave into perpetuity or fight tooth and nail until the day that you die to find yourself in a position of ownership. Those are the two options that you have, as bleak as that may seem. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the only thing that I can say with this is be an owner. Terrence Howard ain't an owner; he's an actor. So this is what he get. And I believe Terrence Howard at one point retired from acting
Right.
because he
Yeah.
was tired of all this. I think
Mm-hmm.
he has since come back, and he still does. I think he's come back. I believe somebody fact check me on that. But I think that, but I'm fairly certain that he quit acting. He retired, like he got out of it, because it's all a racket that is designed to get the owners and the stakeholders and the shareholders money, and the actual people who do the work get pieces, pennies on the dollar, just like the people who work 9 to 5, just like the artists in the music industry, just like actual artists, just like people who earn a paycheck instead of being the check writer. So, I mean, this is just capitalism at its finest, as far as I can tell. It is what it is. He ain't the first, definitely won't be the last.
Hmm.
Though the acting strikes have been resolved, so I'm guessing that he did this interview while that was still going on because I do know that is over now. So maybe they'll get a bigger piece of their pie, hopefully for their sakes. But this will continue to persist because that's how capitalism works. It's designed to keep the workers making the least amount of money, despite the fact that they do the majority of the work.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to be a part of that hamster wheel, you're going to have to fight to try and be an owner in some capacity. And whether you succeed at being able to do that or not is a different story. Nevertheless, that's what it's going to take so that you're not being raked through the coals like this. But chances are you will be because that's just the way capitalism is set up.
Yep, agree 1000. And Terrence, he's been on this tear lately when he's a, out the box kind of guy. I don't know if you've seen any of his math videos when he's sitting there going 1 times 1 doesn't equal 1. So he says 1 times 1 equals like 3 or something. Uh And so he's on this stuff where he's like, yeah, on shrooms or something. I don't know what he's got going on. But be that as it may, the man does he needs his royalties. That's the wildest thing about this acting thing. The rap game and the music industry, I was I already knew what was going on there. But when I started hearing that actors weren't getting as much as I thought, even for TV shows in syndication, I thought as soon as you
Yeah,
hit that syndication mark, you in the money, but the studio's in the money apparently. If those contracts aren't done right, man, they're paying that money to Steve Urkel and not Jaleel White. Now I'm using him as an example,
right.
but
Yeah,
I didn't know that they were doing that. So yeah, it's a wild game out there. I didn't know they were that shisty, but hey man, as you mentioned, bro, if you're not if you're not if you're not trying to create your own and you're sitting there, subjecting yourself basically to this industry built on just being a machine, then you're most likely going to be on the victim side unless you do the complete sellout thing. And even when people do the complete sellout thing, they'll sell you out later anyway. There's some scandal or some other crap comes out about you anyway, about all the stuff that they was letting you get away with.
yeah,
It's a wild game. So best practice, man, is to just do your own thing, man. Independent videos. It apparently it doesn't cost that much to make a movie. Now granted they still had couple $1 million budget, but the point is that I've heard a lot of stuff, especially Friday, where if there is more of a grassroots kind of thing where the money got pulled together, I think that there could still be classics made like Hustle and Flow. Because one thing you're not going to tell people that Hustle and Flow is not a classic.
mhm,
And when you look at all of these enormous, overinflated budgets that these other movies are doing, which are money laundering schemes or something, when they have spending hundreds of millions of dollars and only making tens of millions in return, I think the name of the game needs to revert back to smaller budget, better ideas. So I still think there's a lane for people out there that want to be actors and play in this field, but signing for these large studios honestly is just like signing with P Diddy. So be so be cautious out there, y'all. And I hope Terrence Howard get his racks, man.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, I think so. One of the things that has been talked about recently when it comes to streaming is the show Suits. I don't
Mm,
know if you've heard anything about this, but
mm,
Suits is on Netflix. It's surging. It was a show that was on USA years ago.
mm,
It ran for like 7, 8 seasons. It had a good run. It was a good show. It was always a good show, but ever since it got put on Netflix, all of a sudden the numbers are just through the roof.
mm,
Everybody's watching Suits, 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 and there's these residual conversations coming out of it where people who wrote episodes and directed episodes of that show are just straight up not getting paid. Meanwhile, Netflix is making all of this money off of the whatever, however the metrics work in terms of how
mhm,
these places make money off of these shows. And so
mhm,
now in retrospect, a lot of the people behind the scenes on that show are trying to say, yo, Netflix is doing all of this. There's a royalty clause in my contract. Why am I only getting paid $400? This is crazy. And so, yeah, I mean, this stuff is just set up for you to continue to be a modern. I call it slavery.
It is.
personally. And people get triggered by that word, but it is what it is. I call it modern day slavery. If you are not the check writer, you're in that boat and you just might be more higher paid than others. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. No one, unless they own the organization, is being paid commensurate to their production. Nobody. You can be the most talented engineer in the world and you can make six figures a year. Trust me, sir or ma'am, you're still underpaid. I don't give a damn who you are or how much you're making. You're underpaid. So yeah, I believe them. All of those actors are underpaid. These musicians, these artists, everybody's underpaid. You go to work at a cubicle, you're underpaid, sir. You know what I'm saying? There's no reason why an individual like Bob Iger can be CEO of Disney and he's making billions of dollars or whatever he makes a year and he ain't doing shit. Like, I'm not saying, let me take that back. I don't want to say he's not doing anything,
No, he
but
do.
but the actors who perform, the people who write and direct these movies for Disney and the actors who act in these movies for Disney, to me, are more important and contribute more to the success of Disney than whoever the CEO of Disney is. And I don't know everything about what goes into being a CEO, but it's no different than an NFL franchise. I would rather have Patrick Mahomes as my quarterback than have Andy Reid as my head coach. I love Andy Reid, but I have a better chance to win a Super Bowl if I have the transcendent quarterback than the all-time great head coach. Okay, look at what the Patriots are now that Brady's gone. Bill Belichick
Boy,
can't win a damn game.
boy.
Okay, so I don't give a damn. Those actors and these artists and the people who do the work are more important than the people who sign the checks. But capitalism is set up to make money off of the backs of their high paid slaves. And Terrence Howard is just a high paid slave, as we all are with this capitalistic infrastructure. So the only thing that you can do is try to put yourself in position to build something that is yours, that belongs
Right,
to you. Because
right,
if you sit there trying to make the most money you can within this ecosystem, you'll
right.
just be a slave for life. And then you'll retire to nothing. And what was that? Was it worth it at the end of the day? I would say it wasn't. So
Agreed.
it is what it is, man. So yeah, I'm with you. I hope Terrence get his money. I do. Quirky guy, but I hope he get his money because he did put that work in. He
He
did
did.
put
He
that
did.
work in.
He did.
Crazy.